He was just drawing dinosaurs on the sidewalk. A black SUV rolled up, no plates, no warning, and two fake HOA officers stepped out like they owned the world. Seconds later, his tiny body was smashed against the pavement, bones cracking like twigs, and they didn't even flinch. But what happened next shook the entire country and exposed a terrifying scam hiding in plain sight. But let's start from the very beginning. It was a bright Saturday morning, one of those rare days when everything felt still, peaceful. I remember standing on the porch, cup of steaming black coffee in hand, watching the sun stretch across the freshly cut lawns of our suburban cul-de-sac. The birds were chirping, a neighbor waved as he passed by with his golden retriever, and my 7-year-old son Tyler sat cross-legged on the sidewalk with a pack of chalk in his lap. He was drawing dinosaurs, not just any dinosaurs. Tyler was obsessed with T-Rexes ever since his preschool teacher gave him a picture book about them. He hadn't stopped sketching giant reptiles with tiny arms and toothy grins. That morning, he was working on a gigantic mural that stretched across 5 feet of clean sidewalk. A roaring green T-Rex in battle with a long-necked brontosaurus. He worked in silence, brow furrowed in concentration, tongue sticking slightly out to the side, every now and then glancing up at me to see if I was watching. I always was. My wife Lisa was grilling in the backyard. She had that weekend energy about her, hair pulled back, sunglasses on, humming some 80s tune. The air smelled like charcoal and onion powder. It was one of those moments you wish you could freeze forever. Then they came. A black Dodge Durango rolled in slow and deliberate. No license plates, just dark tinted windows and the sort of idle engine growl that set my instincts on edge. It stopped right in front of Tyler. The front passenger window rolled down with a mechanical hiss. 2 people stepped out, matching khaki vests, black shirts underneath, each vest stamped with big, bold letters, HOA. I squinted. I'd never seen these people before, and I'd been to every HOA meeting since 2017, including the ones with stale donuts and zero turnout. They looked wrong, too. Tactical, too fit, too confident. The first one, Karen, broad-shouldered with a jaw like a cinder block, glanced down at Tyler's chalk drawings and immediately scowled. The second, younger, buzz-cut, wired, pulled something from his pocket. A tablet. "Is this your property?" Karen barked. I blinked. "Excuse me." She pointed at Tyler. "Is that your son?" Lisa had heard it too. I saw her shadow move toward the gate, spatula still in hand. Tyler looked up from his drawing, eyes wide, confused, not scared. Not yet. "Yeah, that's my son," I said, taking a step down from the porch. "What's this about?" The buzz-cut guy flipped the tablet around. It displayed some internal document, blurry and vague, with the heading HOA Community Violation, Unauthorized Use of Sidewalk Space. "This is vandalism," Karen announced. "Vandalism? It's chalk. He's 7. It doesn't matter. HOA regulations clearly prohibit defacement of public-facing surfaces. This is criminal mischief under municipal code." That's when I noticed it. No name badges, no clipboards, no radios. Real HOA people always have clipboards. "Look," I said, slowly descending to the lawn. "I've never seen either of you at any HOA meeting, and there's no public-facing anything here. That's our sidewalk. He's a kid. He's drawing dinosaurs." They didn't answer me. Instead, buzz-cut guy moved toward Tyler. "Hey," I snapped, voice rising. "Back off." But it was too late. Karen lunged forward, and before I could process it, shoved Tyler back onto the concrete. The sound. I will never forget that sound. Bone meeting cement. The shriek that followed. The way his body crumpled like a rag doll with all the strings cut at once. Lisa screamed. I dropped the mug. The world blurred, but my focus narrowed. I sprinted forward, grabbing Tyler into my arms. Blood. So much blood for such a small body. His left arm bent the wrong way, legs twisted, his face pale, mouth open, gasping, but not crying anymore. The pair didn't run. They stood their ground. "We warned you," Karen muttered. Non-compliance has consequences. My mind couldn't catch up. Lisa was at my side now, tears streaming down her cheeks, clutching Tyler's limp hand. She kept saying his name over and over again, like that would undo the moment, like maybe this was a nightmare, and if she said it just right, the world would snap back to normal. "Call 911, I rasped. "I already did," she shouted, punching numbers into her phone again just in case. And then the worst thing happened. Buzzcut guy reached for his waistband. Gun. Lisa saw it first. She launched forward, screaming, "No." But before he could unholster anything, we all froze. A loud metallic voice boomed. "Drop your weapon. Hands in the air." Black SUVs screeched into view from both ends of the street. Real ones. Marked, lights flaring. Doors flew open. SWAT uniforms. Real police. Real backup. The fake HOA people went still. So did we. They didn't resist. The buzz-cut man dropped his weapon. Karen raised her hands. In seconds, both were on the ground, cuffed, restrained, surrounded. Their confident facade cracked under pressure. One of them whimpered. Actually whimpered. I couldn't look away from Tyler. Paramedics rushed in, slicing through the chaos. They loaded him onto the stretcher, stabilizing his neck, checking vitals, speaking in codes and numbers I couldn't decipher. I wanted to help, but I was in the way. I was nothing but a shaking, bleeding father in a yard where the American dream had just been shattered. "What's your son's name?" a paramedic asked. "Tyler," I whispered. "Stay with us, Tyler," the medic said, placing a mask over his face. "You're going to be okay, buddy." They didn't let us ride in the ambulance. Standard protocol, they said. Too many people. Liability. So I rode in the back of the cruiser, covered in blood that wasn't mine, holding Lisa's hand so tightly I thought I might break her fingers. We followed the sirens. We didn't speak, just listened to the wailing and the static of the radio and the heartbeat in our ears. At the ER, they pulled him into surgery within minutes. 28 fractures, 3 cracked ribs, a punctured lung, compound fracture in his femur, and a skull fracture they didn't want to tell me about yet. I remember sitting in the hallway, staring at a vending machine that had eaten my dollar. I remember thinking that the last thing Tyler said that morning was, "Daddy, do you think T-Rexes ever got scared?" I didn't answer him then. I didn't know how. But now I knew exactly what fear looked like, and I wasn't going to let it win. The waiting room outside the ITU is not designed for humans. It's designed for silence, for pacing, for fluorescent lights that hum above you like distant threats, for the endless rhythm of clock hands that don't care whether your child is breathing. I hadn't moved in 2 hours. Lisa sat across from me, arms wrapped around her knees, rocking slightly. The fire was gone from her face now. In its place was that look, half empty, half hoping, that raw mother's expression when her body still feels the weight of a child who's no longer in her arms. Tyler was in surgery again. That made it the third one. They were resetting his leg and watching for brain swelling. A pediatric trauma surgeon had used the word miraculous earlier, but he hadn't said it about Tyler's survival. He said it about the fact that his spine hadn't snapped. I stared at my palms. The blood had long since dried into the creases, but it was still there. I could still feel his little fingers twitching in mine, and I still couldn't scream. I should have screamed. Instead, I watched 2 monsters, cuffed in black tactical vests, with the word HOA stitched in Velcro lettering, sitting silently in another room behind a pane of one-way glass. I saw them brought in on the hospital monitors, saw them kept separate, saw the way their hands stayed still now. The confidence drained out of them like stale rainwater. It wasn't until a detective walked in, Detective Torres, mid-50s, calm voice like an anchor in a hurricane, that I remembered I had a name. "Mr. Reynolds," he asked. I nodded slowly. "I know this is not the time for anything but your son, but we need your help." My voice was barely more than gravel. "Who are they?" Torres sat. He didn't sugarcoat. "They're not HOA officers. They're not law enforcement. They're not licensed for security or private enforcement. Their real names are Karen McPherson and Leo Davidson. Ex-military washouts. Dishonorable discharges. They've been running an enforcement scam across several suburban communities under the guise of HOA compliance operations. I blinked. He continued. They show up dressed like tactical officers, imply authority, intimidate. Sometimes they even hand out fake citations, collect fines, or make arrests if they think no one's watching. The goal's simple: create fear, then monetize it, like extortion. And the chalk drawing? I asked. Torres shook his head. Means nothing. It's a pretext. They've used cracked garden lights, overgrown hedges, even lawn ornaments as violations. You were just a number. Your son was an obstacle. I stood up. My knees buckled. Lisa gasped, but I didn't fall. I clenched the chair instead, holding on like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to earth. You're saying they meant to hurt him? No, Torres said carefully. I think they wanted to take him. I froze. What? We're still piecing it together, he said, but we believe they've attempted this before. Not just enforcement or fake citations. There are cases in Fresno and Reading where families claim masked HOA enforcers physically dragged children to their vehicles before letting them go after a warning. We think they used it as leverage, but your son resisted, screamed, fought, and Karen lost control. Lisa's mouth opened in horror. She dropped her cup of water, and it shattered. I will kill them, I whispered. I get it, Torres said. Believe me, I do. But if you want them locked away for life, and we will get there, you need to stay sharp. Think like a father, yes, but also like a witness. A nurse peeked in then. Soft knock. Small voice. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds. Tyler is awake. You can see him now. We didn't breathe. We just ran. The ITU was quiet. Too quiet for children. The walls were white and clean and wrong. Tyler lay there, tiny body wrapped in gauze and plaster and tubes, one eye swollen shut, his lips dry, his skin pale with that sickly hospital hue you only see on the brink between worlds. But he was awake. He saw us, and when he smiled, crooked, weak, barely there, it destroyed me. Daddy, he rasped. Lisa sobbed instantly, knees buckling. She took his hand in both of hers, kissing it like a sacred thing. I leaned closer, could barely find my voice. I'm here, champ. You're safe now. I promise you no one will ever touch you again. He nodded slowly, then whispered something I'll never forget. Was it the T-Rex? He protected me, didn't he? I broke then. I broke hard. I wanted to lie to him, say yes, say a T-Rex came and scared the bad people away. But the truth was uglier. The truth was that I hadn't been fast enough, that my son had to take the blow because I hesitated, because I gave those people a second to speak. No, I said, voice shaking. You protected yourself. You screamed. You fought. You gave us enough time. That makes you braver than any dinosaur. He smiled again. Then he slept. By the next morning, the news had exploded. Breaking. Fake HOA cops injure 7-year-old in suburban attack. Child in ICU after illegal arrest attempt by imposters in tactical gear. There was blood everywhere. Father recounts attack on his son. The headlines were everywhere. Local news vans circled our block like vultures. Neighbors erected signs. Justice for Tyler. The video footage captured by a teenager 2 houses down went viral overnight, menaced 22 million views in 24 hours. The scene, 2 people in Fox tactical vests dragging a child. A mother screaming. A father running. Then SWAT takedown. Screams. Sirens. Every second of it was raw, unfiltered, undeniable. And America watched. I met Torres again in the precinct the next day. They're being arraigned this afternoon, he told me. Multiple charges. Assault with intent to maim, child endangerment, impersonating law enforcement, fraud, racketeering. Federal offenses. Bail? I asked. Denied. I looked through the two-way glass again. This time they weren't wearing vests, just orange jumpsuits. Karen McPherson was shaking. Her hands trembled like leaves in wind. Leo Davidson stared straight ahead, lips moving in silent repetition, maybe a prayer or a plea or the mantra of a man who finally realizes he will never be free again. "They'll flip on each other soon," Tori said. "We already found bank records. Over $40,000 in fake HOA fines deposited into shell companies. This was a system, a business. And my son was just inventory." Torres didn't answer, but I knew. That night, Lisa sat with Tyler in the hospital. I went home to get clothes, shower, try to reclaim an inch of reality. But something stopped me on the way in. The chalk. Still there. Still smeared across the sidewalk. Blood-streaked T-Rex jaws. A broken brontosaurus. Tyler's name in rainbow letters, now half washed by the storm of sirens and ambulance wheels. I knelt beside it, trembled, then picked up a piece of blue chalk and started drawing. Not dinosaurs this time. Not monsters. Just a sun and a banner that said, "He's still here." Neighbors joined in, one by one. By dusk, the entire block was covered in color. That night, for the first time in days, Tyler slept without painkillers. And in the morning, when the nurse rolled back the curtain, light poured in and lit up a full mural of support right outside his window. The courtroom was packed, not in a theatrical, media-sensational way, though there were cameras outside and reporters lingering in the hallway like stray wolves, but in the way that mattered more. It was filled with people who cared. Neighbors, teachers, parents from Tyler's school, veterans from the community. One of them stood by the door with a homemade sign that read, "Real people protect children, not power." Karen and Leo were wheeled in separately, their hands and feet cuffed, ankles chained. They wore matching orange jumpsuits that had lost all their false authority shine. No tactical vests now. No mirrored sunglasses or clipped radios. Just two cowards with blank stares. The judge, Honorable Meredith Griffin, a former Marine herself, didn't waste words. "The court recognizes the charges laid against the defendants," she said, her voice low but iron hard, "and acknowledges the extraordinary circumstances under which this case has come to public attention. However, let this be clear. The court's focus is on facts, on law, and on justice." I was seated behind the prosecution. Lisa to my right, holding Tyler's hand. He was in a wheelchair, covered in casts, but awake, alert, watching. His body was broken, but his eyes never blinked when the two entered. Not once. The prosecution began with video evidence. The courtroom lights dimmed, and the screen lit up with shaky phone footage, the one captured by the neighbor kid. The resolution was grainy, but the sound was crystal clear. "You're in violation." Screaming. A thud. Tyler's body hitting pavement. Lisa shouting. My voice cracking. Then sirens. The takedown. I heard someone gasp behind me. Someone else started crying. The screen cut to black. Judge Griffin sat silently for a moment, then said, "Play it again." We watched it 3 times. Each time, I felt the blood drain from my fingers. Each time, Tyler held my hand tighter. Each time, the jury looked a little more pale. Detective Torres was the first to testify. He laid everything out, the full timeline. Karen and Leo had created a fake HOA enforcement firm, using forged credentials and stolen HOA letterheads. They leased vehicles, acquired tactical vests online, and used generic language to threaten homeowners into compliance. But that wasn't the worst of it. They targeted families, Tori said. They looked for vulnerability, single mothers, elderly couples, homes with children. The goal was always the same: exert pressure under the illusion of authority and capitalize on the fear. Why children? The prosecutor asked. To intimidate, or to extract leverage. In some cases, we suspect they threatened to involve Child Protective Services, fraudulently, of course, if fines weren't paid. Was there ever actual abduction? Tories hesitated. Yes, there are 3 pending cases across state lines involving temporary detainment of minors. The families were too scared to report at the time. Tyler's case broke that silence. The room was dead quiet. Then came the footage from the body cams. The real police this time. It showed the moment the SWAT team cornered the fake HOA cops. You could hear the instructions shouted in short, sharp bursts. Drop the weapon. Hands on your head. Face down. Do not move. You could see Leo hesitate, then crumble. You could see Karen stiffen, jaw set, as if still trying to cling to the illusion of control. But when the police moved in, she dropped faster than her pride. The prosecution let the footage play in full because nothing sold the truth better than unedited facts. Then it was my turn. They called me to the stand. I'd rehearsed this in my mind for days. I'd imagined myself standing tall, voice firm, delivering a speech that would shake the heavens. But when I got there, I was just a father. "Mr. Reynolds," the prosecutor began gently, "can you describe what happened on the morning of the incident?" I nodded, swallowed hard, began. "I was watching my son draw dinosaurs. He loves T-Rexes. He's obsessed with them. He was drawing on the sidewalk, not on the neighbor's property, not on the road, on our own stretch of pavement. And he was happy, just happy." My throat closed, but I forced it open. Then those two people showed up, claimed to be from the HOA, said Tyler was defacing community property. I tried to reason with them. I told them he was a child, that it was chalk, that it wasn't permanent. But they didn't care. My voice shook. Karen shoved him. Hard. He fell back. His head hit the concrete. His arms, his legs, they folded under him. He screamed. Then he didn't. I stopped, breathed. The prosecutor gave me space. Did the defendants attempt to render aid? No, I said. They stood there. One of them reached for a weapon. My wife screamed. That's when the police arrived. Did you know these people? No. Had you seen them at any HOA meeting ever? Never. And I attend every meeting, even the boring ones. That drew a sad ripple of laughter from the gallery, then silence again. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Next, they called Tyler. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The judge allowed him to roll to the front of the courtroom and simply sit. He looked at the people who'd hurt him. He didn't cry. He didn't blink. He just sat there, quiet and broken and brave, while Karen and Leo turned their eyes to the floor. In that moment, he had more power than both of them combined. The defense tried its best, claimed mental instability, claimed miscommunication, claimed Karen believed she had legal jurisdiction under the bylaws of a defunct HOA from another county, but no one bought it, especially not the jury, especially not Judge Griffin. When the verdict came, it hit like thunder. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing recommendation. Consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted. Some people wept. Others clapped. I just exhaled for the first time in what felt like weeks. Tyler squeezed my hand again, then whispered, "Can I draw again now?" I nodded. "You can draw anything you want." Outside the courthouse, the mural had grown. It started with a single sun. Then came clouds, mountains, cartoon police dogs, giant dinosaurs with shields. One neighbor painted a mural of Tyler as a superhero, arms outstretched in flight, wearing a cape that read, "Truth Wins." And in the center of it all, someone had written, 28 bones broken, one boy standing forever strong. 6 months later, the sidewalk outside our house is no longer just concrete. It's a canvas, a memorial, a movement. What began as a child's quiet drawing, a dinosaur war sketched in chalk, has become a permanent installation. The city approved a mural grant after Tyler's case made national headlines. Local artists came together to immortalize that once bloody stretch of pavement with vibrant color. Tyler standing, cape in the wind, chalk in hand, facing down shadowy figures labeled fear and lies. Behind him, hundreds of hands, some small, some gnarled with age, reaching forward in unity. They called it the sidewalk of strength. But before that, there was the fallout, and it was seismic. The week after the sentencing, Tyler's story aired on every major network, NBC, CBS, FOX. Even PBS aired a feature called Drawing the Line, when pretend power turns violent. Interviewers came from all over the country. Lisa and I were hesitant. We didn't want to turn Tyler into a symbol before he healed. But he surprised us. "I want people to know I'm okay," he told us from his hospital bed. "And I want other kids to know they should scream if bad people come." So we agreed, with one rule: Tyler controls the story. The first interview aired during prime time. Tyler sat in a small chair beside Lisa, legs in casts, arms braced, but his voice clear. "I thought they were cops," he said, "but my mom's voice was louder. And then my dad ran. And then I knew I wasn't alone." The host asked, "What would you say to kids who might go through something scary like that?" Tyler smiled slightly. "Pretend you're a T-Rex." They never backed down. The ripple effect was immediate. 3 more families came forward within days, in Oregon, Nevada, and Texas. All had similar experiences. Unlicensed HOA enforcement officers showing up, unannounced, citing fake violations, sometimes using force. None had reported the incidents before. Most feared retaliation, or worse, being ignored. But Tyler had shifted the scales. The Department of Justice launched a multi-state task force called Project Dominion, aimed at cracking down on fraudulent authority figures masquerading as neighborhood enforcers. Within 2 months, 11 arrests were made across 5 states. The judge's ruling set a precedent. Impersonating authority for the purpose of intimidation constitutes a federal offense when minors are involved, regardless of perceived jurisdiction. Meanwhile, Tyler's healing was slow but relentless. Physical therapy took months. His bones, though resilient, had to be re-broken twice to reset alignment. He learned to walk again, first with rails, then a walker, then braces. The doctors called it a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle. It was work. It was grit. It was Tyler waking up at 5:00 a.m. to do stretching drills with a grimace and a T-Rex plush clutched in one hand. It was Lisa massaging his joints for hours after school. It was me learning what it meant to cry and not hide it. But the hardest scars weren't visible. Tyler wouldn't sleep without the light on. He flinched at doorbells. He avoided black SUVs for weeks. One night, I found him in the backyard just sitting in the dark. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked. "No," I said. "They'll never touch anyone again. But what if someone else pretends?" I sat beside him, thought about the world we live in, where costumes and confidence can override truth, where lies wear uniforms. "Then we teach people to recognize real power," I said, "and we remind them that the strongest people don't wear badges. They protect without needing one." School was another challenge. Some kids avoided him at first, didn't know what to say. Others were overprotective, treating him like he might break again. Tyler hated both. So on the first day back, he asked to bring chalk. His teacher agreed. At recess, he wheeled himself to the edge of the playground, pulled out a pack of colored sticks, and began to draw. Kids gathered. No words, just color. Dinosaurs, spaceships, giant birds, then a small chalk figure in a wheelchair holding a sword made of sunlight. That image would later become the logo for a nonprofit we launched, Chalk Justice. It provides legal aid and emotional support for families affected by neighborhood-based harassment, HOA abuse, and fraudulent authority. In its first 3 months, it funded over 40 consultations, supported 18 ongoing lawsuits, and partnered with trauma-informed therapists across 10 states. Tyler is its founder. We just handle the emails. But there was one last piece of justice left, not for us, for the community. The HOA board that had allowed Karen and Leo to claim any credibility, even indirectly, was disbanded. Their bylaws hadn't been updated in over a decade. Their record-keeping was non-existent. They had left a vacuum, and someone filled it. So a neighborhood meeting was held. Attendance was the highest in HOA history. One by one, neighbors stood up. They told stories about late-night warnings slipped into mailboxes, about enforcement visits that didn't feel right, about their silence. Then a veteran named Carl Menace, 75, Korean War medic, lived 2 doors down, stood up. "I let my grass grow 3 inches too long last summer," he said. "They came and threatened to fine me $500. But what I regret is not questioning who they were. He looked at Tyler. I won't make that mistake again. The community voted unanimously to dissolve the old structure and rebuild from scratch. Transparency, oversight, and zero tolerance for intimidation. They also passed a motion to rename the local park Tyler Reynolds Memorial Commons, even though Tyler is very much alive. Memorial? I asked them after the vote. A woman stood up. Her name was Martha, retired teacher. Lived on our block for 32 years. Because he made us remember what matters, she said. The day of the park dedication, Tyler stood beside the mayor and the chief of police. He wore a suit jacket over his cast. He held a microphone with both hands, still shaky but determined. I thought I was alone, he told the crowd. But I wasn't. My mom screamed louder than anyone. My dad ran faster than ever. And now you're all here. So no kid should ever feel like I did. Pause. Then he looked straight at the news cameras. If you see someone pretending to be something they're not, tell someone, even if you're small, especially if you're small, because bad people count on you staying quiet. Silence. Then thunderous applause. And after that, laughter, as Tyler pointed behind the podium and shouted, and if you need help, I know at least one T-Rex who still takes calls. That night, we returned home to find another chalk drawing on our driveway. We didn't know who left it, but it showed Tyler standing tall, no casts, holding a badge in one hand with the word real scratched into it and a piece of chalk in the other. Above him in bold letters, fake HOA cops broke my bones, but they couldn't break my spirit.